Why hello there everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today we are doing a speed build for my museum area, which I am super excited about. I wanted to show you this kind of little run around of the area before we actually get started, because as you can see, there's already kind of quite a lot done. So let me explain. The kind of general shape of this area in this top section where we are working now. So that includes kind of where I've placed the trees and this big cliff behind with lots of flowers and weeds on. That has existed on my island since around the summer of 2020, I'd say. So it's been on my island for a really long time. It's remained completely untouched because I have loved it so much. However, as I've been changing aesthetics, I've never completely got around to changing it to match that. So that's when, if you noticed the kind of section at the bottom of this little waterfall and at the bottom of the steps, you could see that it was an absolute mess. And that's because I actually tried to film this video back during my TOWNCORE era of my island, and I actually got really overwhelmed with it. I kind of built the general shape of this little courtyard, I guess you could call it, and then I just abandoned it because I had no clue how I wanted to decorate it, which I was a little bit upset about because, again, it's an area which has been on my island for a really long time and I've been really excited to get back into it. So that's why I was so happy when the inspiration finally hit to decorate it today. And let's actually talk about the decorating theme, because I am keeping it within this dark academia style, which I have been slowly implementing across my island. If you didn't see, a few weeks ago I put out a video where I built my island entrance in this theme and I absolutely loved it. So I kind of reused a lot of the ideas from that area to kind of try and keep the sense of continuity, I guess. I know this museum, so just for a bit of context, as you can see, that is the beach behind me. So this area is right in the back left corner of my island, so it's a long way from my island entrance, but you know what, we're gonna get around, filling out the gaps soon. Now, you might have noticed that I've kind of, in a minute, I'm gonna go into starting to actually decorate this area before I've kind of got the skeleton of the lower courtyard section mapped out, which is a little bit unlike me. I tried to get the kind of terraforming and all the paving done all at once so that then I don't have to come back to it later. However, with this build, because I'd tried to do it once and it didn't fully work out, I wanted to take it a little bit slower and to really section it out. So that's why I decided to start building this upper section first, because it was kind of a bit of a micro section, I guess, and I felt like I could figure out what I really wanted to do here first, so what the vibe was going to be and all of that good stuff. So that's why we're starting up here. So let me explain to you what I decided to do. So in my mind, the story behind my museum on my island now is that Blathers has kind of not quite let it go. But you know how scatterbrained he can be. In my mind, his collection has just grown so out of control. All the storage in the basement has filled up, all the exhibits are complete. So he's had to start storing a few extra fossils in his collection and a few of the statues he cares a little bit less about outside. So it's kind of meant to look a little bit like organized chaos. And again, with all the kind of trees and nature surrounding the back of the museum and all around the side, the idea has always kind of been to make it feel like it's being reclaimed by nature. I wish we had the option to be able to change the aesthetic of the outside of the museum building itself, because if we had like an old weathered rustic sort of aesthetic to it, that would fit in perfectly. But I love how the outside of the museum looks anyway, so I'm not too mad about it. But I did, if you notice the kind of pillars on the outside of the door to the museum, you'll see in a little bit that at the bottom of the little waterfall part, I actually used one of the ruined pillar objects to try and make it look maybe as if the museum at one point extended all the way out and it's kind of just fallen to ruin. And so yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. Very rustic, very scattered, organized chaos, I think is probably the best way I could describe it for sure. And I should say right here that if you are looking at the cliff behind the museum and thinking, wow, that looks ratty with how many weeds are up there and all the flowers are different colors, don't worry, I totally get you. At first, I kind of was a little bit blind to it. I think I was so focused on how I was decorating that I hadn't even noticed how ratty it really was looking up there. So in a minute, I head up onto the cliff so that I can pull out some of the weeds and add a bit more hedge behind this last little bit of cliff here. And I actually pull out a bunch of weeds in this middle section so that I can place the Stonehenge item, which you will see in just a second, because although you can't particularly see it from the ground, it looks amazing on the cliff itself. And I think when you pan the camera up, you can ever so slightly see a hint of it just sort of behind the museum. And I think it looks really cool. It's the kind of thing that you wouldn't notice unless you looked really hard, and I absolutely love that, and I think it looks so cool. So now we are moving into this bottom courtyard section. As you can see, there is that little bit of Molly's house right next to this area on the right side, separated by the trees. Just again, if you might have seen some other speed builds on my island, just so you can get a bit more perspective on where this area is located, I guess. So yeah, we're doing a very classic me decorating thing, which is incorporating these little square-shaped courtyards just everywhere on my island. Ever since I started doing these kind of more towncore builds, I've just been obsessed with it. I cut out a bunch of me placing the paths in this area because nobody wants to see that, and I actually didn't even record it. I weirdly just got a strong feeling one night to sit in bed and to play Animal Crossing and to just set out these like paths and get the area ready for decorating. And it felt really nice actually, because I have not done that in a really long time. So that was quite fun to do. I wouldn't say I've quite got the itch back for building in Animal Crossing in general, but who knows, maybe next week you guys will get a double whammy speed build. I don't know. I'll just have to see how I feel next week, I guess. But anyway, yes, we are continuing to decorate this little courtyard down here. It's kind of, the aesthetic is very much still the same, very scattered. I didn't want to decorate it too heavily. And you might even look at the kind of brick section of the path a little bit later and think, wow, that looks a little bit empty. And it might do to some people, but I'm also, in this new aesthetic, trying to keep things slightly simpler than how I might have decorated it back during my Colin Crossing Core era, I guess. But here I am adding in a stall and a little, eventually like a tiny library and a stack of books. Because my idea here was maybe Blathers would have set up ages ago this stall for people on the island to, you know, grab some books, kind of like on a system sort of a thing. Like, you borrow them and then you bring them back, and then there's a little table there to sit and read them. And, you know, like everything in this area, it's sort of been set up and then abandoned a little bit. Like, I wanted it to have that feeling of age, like it's been here a while. And I think I achieved that. So here you can see me again, putting in that broken pillar as if to say maybe one time the museum stretched all the way out to here, but it's since, you know, fallen into disrepair a little bit. Again, it would be amazing if I could actually change the aesthetic of the museum to fit that, but hey ho. So for once, it seems like I've actually almost talked about the build for the entire video, which feels very unlike me. I usually babble on a lot during these videos, but if you've got to this point in the video, the one thing I did want to ask you guys was, how is your summer going? To all my fellow students out there who I'm assuming you're all finished up for the year, do you know what? Let me know how it's going in the comments down below, because I really would love to hear from you. Maybe that's what I'll talk about in my next video, is how my summer's going. But anyway, guys, we are coming up on the end of this video, so I really hope you enjoyed the build. If you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, please leave them down below, because I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you again soon.